Hi, I'm Pestka, and I'm a psychologist. I know about anxiety disorders not only from my educational background, but also from the autopsy. Based on my own experience, I'd like to help you navigate anxiety and to find the eye of the cyclone. In this first episode, you will learn about the anxiety coping strategy based on Dr. Claire Weekes' very first book, Self-Help for Your Nurse, from 1962. Maybe it will sound a bit cheesy, but I truly believe that this book saved me. Not saving in terms of saving life, because I know our anxious minds, and that is probably, that was your first thought. No. What I mean is that it saved me from suffering longer. It gave me the comfort and navigated me through the storm. I hope that the simple but at the same time deep wisdom which Dr. Weekes shared in her guide will also help to adjust your inner compass and give hope, direction, and relief. So, who is Dr. Claire Weekes? According to Wikipedia, she was an Australian GP born in 1903. Fun fact, she spent early stages of her career doing biological research on reptiles. However, what she is known the most for is her contribution to the field of psychology, more specifically the treatment of anxiety disorders, or, in her words, nervous illness. Nowadays, calling an anxiety and nervous illness may seem a bit overwhelming, especially that the majority of us feel that the only thing we wish for is to be reconnected to our old self. We don't feel ill. However, there will be also people who are already so exhausted that they won't be bothered by using the word illness. Dr. Weekes predicted all these concerns. Nevertheless, she decided to use the word illness in her book as to reflect a state different than usual, which requires a specific healing process. And for this healing process of patients with various anxiety disorders, agoraphobia, panic attacks, OCD, she is very well known. She noticed that the psychoanalysis doesn't give the expected results in treating anxiety symptoms. Based on her own experience as well as working with patients, she developed and described 4 steps of healing, which I will happily tell you about over the next minutes. What personally touched me when I was reading the book was that I finally felt understood and taken care of. Dr. Weekes writes with such level of empathy and understanding for the suffering we go through when dealing with anxiety. It almost felt like as if she takes part of our pain away, as if she sits right next to you holding your hand. To me, understanding that I am not mentally ill and that getting back to myself is within my reach, that meant a lot. Whenever I felt anxious or not understood by my family, this book was the support I needed. Or should I say, the support of Dr. Weekes was what I needed. She normalizes the symptoms and reassures that the cure lays within. The main message of the book is that regardless of how intense your symptoms are, you can be healed if you follow the 4 steps. By saying regardless, she means that even if you feel that your symptoms are not curable, and maybe you suffer with suicidal thoughts or suicidal attempts due to the exhaustion, you will recover if you follow the steps. Of course, recovery will not be an easy journey. It will require a lot of courage, involvement, training, and effort. But this effort will bring you back to yourself. Dr. Weekes draws a line between nervous exhaustion and nervous illness. But when does one end and the other begin? She says that the nervous illness, or how we would currently say anxiety disorder, starts when we develop the fear of the fear and we enter the vicious cycle of anxiety. So, once a person feels threatened by the effects of the nervous symptoms and anxiety becomes the center of all cognitive processes, this is when we can say that the person may suffer from the anxiety disorder. Maybe some of you heard about the vicious cycle of anxiety for the first time. Let me guide you through it. At first, we have a fear stimulus, which may be an intrusive thought or situation that triggers fear. As a next step, we misinterpret this threat, and we are interpreting the presence of thoughts or sensations as dangerous. And this is when we start feeling anxious. We feel that something is wrong, or not just right. We start to feel the physical symptoms of it, with the racing heart, sweaty palms, maybe we are out of breath. And while feeling this, we automatically start seeking safety by avoidance, or maybe by repetitive praying. We try to seek reassurance by rumination or excessive checking. And this gives us a temporary relief from anxiety. However, in the absence of corrective experience, we don't learn that thoughts are okay and can be handled without safety behaviors. We are never learning that the situation is safe or that we are able to handle it. And this is when we reinforce that pattern. That is the vicious cycle of anxiety, but there is a way out of it. I'll try to give an example of vicious cycle of anxiety. In her book, Dr. Weeks gives an example of a woman who says, "I'm not sure what triggers my anxiety, but when I look at certain things, I think, for example, I am afraid that I might hurt someone. Some days, all I have to do is look at someone or touch something to feel this reaction. The image is so clear that it displaces everything else. It really freaks me out." End of quote. According to Dr. Weeks, many lives are ruined because of the oversensitive reaction of the hypersensitive body to some terrible thoughts. Without such overreaction, this woman would be able to say to herself, "Of course no one will be hurt. What a foolish thought." And on this, everything would end. But when thoughts are accompanied by sharp physical fear, the victim may feel shocked and incapacitated. At such a time, it will be natural to treat this thought seriously and believing that maybe I really would be capable of harming someone, and this may in turn lead to being obsessed with it. Dr. Weeks gives another example. Imagine that you toss and turn in bed, unable to fall asleep. You'll probably easily imagine that you will never again be able to sleep through the night. And what would be the answer of your hypersensitive nervous system? Probably anxiety, maybe panic attack, racing heart, sweating. Because of such a reaction to every thought, you may feel unable to make decisions or be submissive to outside suggestions, and gradually lacking self-confidence. At this stage, you may feel as if your personality has disintegrated, as if both you and the world were unreal. Feelings of derealization or depersonalization can also come up. Under normal circumstances, when we look at or listen to something without focusing too much on it, the mind rests. Irrelevant thoughts so lightly jump from one subject to another that we are barely aware of them. When we are tired mentally, thoughts don't jump. They seem to stick. When thoughts stick and accompanied by fear, conditions arise perfect for the development of obsessions and phobias. Even having a simple conversation may seem impossible. The person starts to avoid social interactions and has troubles with remembering. Cannot read books or watch TV unless it's something related to the anxiety you are dealing with. Dr. Weeks says that a person suffering from a nervous breakdown is neither a fool nor a coward, but often an extremely brave man or woman who fights back with the breakdown as best as he or she can. Unfortunately, this courage and efforts are often misdirected. We often may hear from our friends, family, or colleagues from work, "Why doesn't she just pull herself together, just get to work and forget all this nonsense?" But that's exactly what the sufferer would like to do. However, healthy people are not aware of the fact that the fear felt by the sufferer is greater than ever experienced or imagined by the average person. And here comes the power of understanding. Knowledge and understanding of the mechanisms of anxiety and the fear cycle, anxious thoughts and bodily symptoms can already bring a relief and help to release some of the tension you're feeling. Our first and very natural responses to anxiety are by fighting, blocking, avoiding, and being impatient. However, according to Dr. Weeks, the cure lays in facing instead of avoiding, accepting instead of fighting, floating instead of blocking, and letting the time pass instead of being impatient. Let's dive deeper into these strategies. All of them are similar and interconnected. Sometimes it is difficult to draw a line between them, but it's okay. They should be implemented all at once as they intersect. Step 1. Don't avoid, but face the anxiety. Because the cure is found in places and experiences that you are afraid of. Instead of an inner voice which says hopefully, "Maybe a panic attack won't happen to me here," we have to show up readiness to face the fear with a supportive voice saying, "I don't care if it happens here. It just doesn't count. You can do it." Let's move to the second step. Instead of fighting, accept. Acceptance entails learning to put up with the uncomfortable physical signs of anxiety and panic while maintaining a kind of a ceasefire with them. Fighting fear and its frequently dreadful bodily effects can only lead to greater fear, which will then feed worry and panic. The key to overcoming is to accept the uncomfortable physical sensations and attempt to go with the flow. Acceptance is to avoid adding more dread to already existing fear. This obviously isn't simple and takes a lot of practice. Dr. Weeks states that by practicing accepting, you earn that little voice that says, "It doesn't matter anymore if panic comes." And this is the only voice to listen to. It is your support system who will always come to help you in setbacks, even if you find yourself almost helpless or on the floor. When the fear of panic is no longer present, it gradually weakens. Dr. Weeks guides the reader to feel the fleeting feeling of acceptance. Let's also try it. Sit down, comfortable. Now take a deep breath Exhale slowly. Let your muscles relax. Drop resistance and try to feel ready to accept. You can also say to yourself, "It's okay that I'm feeling anxious. I will welcome it and let it go through me. It's okay that I feel that my life is in danger. It's just the reaction of my exhausted nervous system." Did you feel this little feeling of hope that it will be okay? This little additional power? Hopefully, yes. Acceptance is a surrender, not a fight. To accept means to drop your guard and let the beast get closer. Only then the beast will come closer, and by seeing that you are no longer afraid of it, it will go away. The next step is similar to facing and accepting, however, there are some nuances to it. Step 3. Instead of blocking, try floating. Dr. Weeks gives an example of a woman suffering from anxiety disorder who wakes up one morning feeling so tired, she shudders already thinking about the effort of getting out of bed, getting dressed, or having breakfast. She tells herself to pull yourself together and tenses her body. She described this feeling as if she is an ant staring at the Mount Everest. Instead of seeing only the depressing effort ahead, this woman should be thinking to herself, "Well, okay, I will make this effort as gently as possible. I'll give into it. I will succumb to it all. Let it happen. I will not fight. I will try to let my body flow freely." Floating is sort of an active relaxation. It's an acting despite the anxiety. If the relaxation of an overly tense body seems impossible while learning how to float, imagining it can be a great first step. The goal is to develop an automatic thought when you have anxiety symptoms, which will tell you, "Accept and float." I guarantee you, this self-talk can make miracles, but it needs to be practiced. Do not run away from the thoughts or bodily symptoms. Float over them. Last step, step 4. Instead of impatience, let the time pass. You may feel so impatient to become again the person who you once were, and it's fully understandable. However, the key to the healing is to understand that the recovery takes time. It takes time for a synthesized nervous system to heal and for the automatic reactions of panic and anxiety to gradually decrease. Our society, and maybe you as well, expect that there is an immediate cure and recovery should happen fast. These concepts can be counterproductive to healing. Dr. Weeks also describes the relapse periods on the road to recovery, which should be even expected and accepted, because setbacks provide us with an opportunity to practice the learned techniques so that they become truly a part of us. The key to recovery is not forgetting, but truly feeling that the symptoms don't matter anymore, and for that to happen, the time must pass. A road to healing can be compared with finding the eye of the cyclone. The eye of the cyclone is the calmest place during the storm. Imagine that anxiety or a panic attack is the cyclone that you're in. Being in the eye of it means that you remain calm even though you're feeling the thoughts racing around you and all the unpleasant physical symptoms. But you just observe them, you float above them, you accept them. It's a safe place because you found it by yourself through facing the anxiety instead of avoiding it, by accepting and not fighting, by floating and not blocking, and most of all, you let the time pass and do the rest of the healing. To get to the eye of the cyclone, you need to first get through the storm, but once you're there, you have this strong support system, which is you. Thank you for listening. If you feel that this video can help you or your friend or any person who you know that suffers from anxiety, feel free to share. And good luck, you strong, courageous person. Bye.